Yo, what's up guys? Lightwater here. I did it. I crunched super hard, guys. I have finished Holy Priest. It is 9 in the morning. I started, I think, around like 10 p.m. Maybe 11. So it's been 11, 12 hours. Is that math? My brain's toasted. It's been a decent amount of time. Maybe like 10, 11 hours, yeah. So much shorter than Resto Shaman. Now, most of this was because I feel like I'm finally awake. I realize that's ironic saying that now, but like I can like finally think and I can actually do numbers again in my head. It's so weird how like it kind of snapped back, but like, man, I was like in a vegetated state or something. I'm going to reduce myself on the screen because I'm just randomly here. But anyways, also, I kind of had a pretty good idea what the Holy Priest was going to do, and I really didn't want to have like confirmation bias and just sort of like, you know, lead myself towards like what I want to play and be like, oh, I'll look for any bonuses. But I was pretty sure from like the beta and stuff where like as long as the numbers didn't change too much, like what was going to be the proper way to play, and I pretty much nailed it spot on. Unfortunately, for some of you guys, you'll probably hate this playstyle. Me, I couldn't dream of a better playstyle. It's basically a one-button healer. But we'll sort of get into it. So, luckily, from theory crafting Holy Priest in the past, I knew a lot of pitfalls to avoid. And the biggest thing with theory crafting Holy Priest is how do you assign a value to the cooldown reduction of a holy word? And I spent a lot of time thinking about that, and I spent a lot of time previously during other expansions theory crafting just that. And essentially I came up with something that kind of works. You know, if you reduce a spell's cooldown by 10%, then like with a spell, then that spell is like 10% of that spell. So you take 10% of that spell's mana cost, you take 10% of that spell's healing, and you add that to the equation, and that's the only way you can do it. So we start with the very top. Who's the granddaddy? Well, that's Holy Word Salvation, right? And so we figure out, okay, how much percent of Holy Word Salvation's cooldown is reduced each time I cast Holy Word Sanctify and Holy Word Serenity. 30 seconds of every 12 minutes. That's 1/24th. So on and so forth. You get it, right? And it's a lot of like, it's a lot of weird like math and stuff, and you know, I come up with some pretty insane equations to do this, but it worked out, and I think I came up with something I'm kind of proud of, honestly. Yeah, and it's not like 100% rock solid, but this is one of those things where like my gut feeling was spot on. I was wrong about Resto Shaman, and I was glad that I mapped it out and, you know, sort of figured out what it is, and Resto Shaman was sort of a mix. But I knew, guys, I knew Holy Priest, okay? I knew it was just going to be heal spam. And it is just so heal spam, it's hilarious. It's like more heal spam than I thought it was going to ever be. But let's get into it. So there's not really, you have all these extra spells they gave you, right? But they kind of all suck, and they also don't reduce your holy words. So like Circle of Healing starts out good, but it becomes bad very fast. Same with like Palm and Renew and stuff that just doesn't really like, you know, even though Renew technically takes 2 seconds off Sanctify, it's not the greatest. So here's the base values. I'll have a link in the description too, so you guys can like follow along or look at stuff. Right off the bat, I noticed just between testing the client and looking at websites that there were indeed the hidden core passives. So the websites are off by 5%, and so yeah, it's kind of weird. Renew gets a plus 26% one for some reason, whereas Power Word Shield gets minus 8.5%. It was like a real blast trying to figure out why these spells were like not doing their like proper amounts and how much they were actually supposed to do. Okay, then I went on to do the base stats. I kept the stats the same as the Shaman one just to keep consistency across the board, because I want to be able to compare all the Throughput healers, you know, for the most part. And I think Resto Shaman is now in the Throughput category. I personally think it's going to be like Resto Shaman and Holy Priest for the best like raw HBS healers, honestly. Which is really weird that Resto Shaman's even in the race. It's been a long time for them, honestly. Anyways, so let's see. Okay, so this is where things begin to get a little screwy. Everything has underneath it with salve, right? The numbers, yeah, I don't really know how else to explain it. This is all factoring in a portion of salve as if it was their own, proportionate to the amount that they would actually like take off. So first things first, I did salve, figured out how much salvation was worth, and it's a fuck ton of healing, of course, right? And so everything's sort of a trickle down from there. And you can see the equation for Holy Word Salvation is it's fucked. It is fucked. Yeah. This was like an hour, like just making sure I got it all right, because once I started with this, I knew it was just a trickle down from there, right? Because then, so at the top is Holy Word Salvation, then it branches off into the other two Holy Words, which those branch off into their other spells that reset them. And honestly, if you're not in the whole like resetting Holy Words family, as far as Holy Priest goes, you're basically dog shit, because the conduits really buff this kind of play style, right? They have a percent increase to your Holy Word reduction, and there's like this massive conduit that gives like a ridiculous bonus to your heal each time you use a Holy Word. It's like 70%. So if you can get your Holy Words down to a very short cooldown, you can just constantly get like these empowered heals cranked out, right? One thing people like to forget is for this expansion, and I think last expansion, they added it later on, but it was too late. But Trail of Light never used to affect heal for a long time, and they didn't really compensate heal to deal with that, right? So for those of you guys don't know, Trail of Light gives 35% of like a replica heal to your previous heal target. It's basically just a 35% buff, honestly. It gets all the things, it's pretty insane. So it's already your most efficient heal. Now it just gets like another 35%. It's also your pound for pound most efficient Holy Word like cooldown spell, which helps it again, right? So stuff like Cosmic Ripple gains a lot of value. It's cheap and it's good to use with it's like Surge of Light is just good to help reset Serenity's cooldown. Everything I found is just really about resetting Holy Word Salvation, so you can get two of them off in like a 6-minute fight. That's the main thing. And like you'll see the math. It just isn't that good. Like Prayer of Healing just isn't that good. Like I don't know. It just costs a lot of mana. It doesn't really do that much. Even though it's technically one of the Holy Word reset spells, or like cooldown reducing spells, it wasn't too good. So yeah, here's all of this. I guess I can go over. Yeah, I theory crafted all the things. You know what was surprising to me, guys? Holy Nova randomly showed up pretty well. If you have 20 allies on top of you, Holy Nova is actually kind of worth casting. And if there's 3 enemies nearby, it's plus 50%. And so that's actually 2 chances at a Surge of Light proc too. So I added that in, of course. So yeah, if you got Surge of Light and everyone's stacked and there's 3 enemies nearby, you just spam Holy Nova and cash out on some free flash heals too. Also, it's worth mentioning that the legendaries are like not that good for Holy Priest. Like they kind of all don't do anything. And there's only really one legendary that's a couple, like 2 or 3 legendaries that are decent, and that's kind of what drove the build in the first place, right? But I mean, you look at these legendaries. Here's the res cloak, but potions are now just on a static 5-minute timer, so you can't cheese it for another pot. You still get 15 seconds of free healing while you're dead, but yeah, it's just not nearly as good as it used to be. Harmonious Apparatus was a bit of a bait. I think most people are going to think this is really good, but I did the math and it's just not. They get close, right? Like this makes it so your Prayer of Mending and your Circle of Healing also reduce, but it's only by 4 seconds, not the 6. And here's what's interesting: those spells have cooldowns. So not only do they not get the full 6, they only get 4, but they're still restricted to their cooldowns. And I think that's because Blizzard thinks, oh, well, these are like really efficient, good heals. We don't want them to be able to cast them all the time. Well, why even tack on a cooldown number, though, if you can't spam it, right? The whole idea is you want to be able to spam something to get your Holy Words off cooldown. Anyways, it just doesn't come out to being a lot. Flash concentration is just this right now. This is 15% increase on your heal and takes a whole second off the cast time. It's technically bugged right now on beta, and it's only taking off like 0.8. But as long as it's taking off like 0.8 or close to 1 second, it's good enough, right? You don't need your heals to be super, super fast, but they got to be faster than 2.5 seconds. Divine Image, this thing is weird. When it's out, it's kind of like a 33% HPS increase, but it's a 20% proc chance on your holy words. So I did the math for it. Technically, it's a slightly higher throughput increase than flash concentration, but with this build, you have to go flash concentration just to play the game. This is worthless. Worthless. Like, everything else is just like dog shit, honestly. So yeah, I mean, we're kind of going backwards in this video because, I mean, that's just how it's going. Because I feel like it's worth just jumping to the gun and just letting you know that there was basically hardly few options. Like, you know, not going for heal was just, I don't know, it's just a no-brainer, right? Like, I tried to make all these other spells worth it, right? Like Renew and Prayer of Healing and Palm and Circle of Healing, but they fell short in the efficiency department, like, really badly. Yeah. So, and I spent, you know, I spent a lot of time doing like the equations on like how much, you know, how things work with like resetting the holy words, and then like what's that worth, what does that cost? So, let's see. Guess we can move on. But yeah, here's a list of all the efficiencies and like the situations. So I drew the cutoff here. Because this is your standard heal, like not even with Salvation Talented, not even with a lot of the Naru Talented factored in, I think, right? And there's just so many spells that are like below here. So I realize that, you know, some fights are situational, you might be forced to cast other spells, but I'm still gonna theorycraft like it's not, and then you just have to, like, you know, learn when to break that rule per fight. But personally, is even from like an HPS standpoint, spamming like 1.4, 1.5 second heals, they're gonna actually do a lot of healing. Like, this is powerful spot healing. These heals actually hit pretty hard. All right, so the conduits, the covenants. So covenants, the covenants for Holy Priests below. I'll be honest. The only one that seemed, there's two that seem good. Like, okay, first of all, Necrolord and the Fae people can just suck my dick. They're terrible, dude. Oh my god, those bonuses are miserable. I thought Necrolord was going to be so good. I was telling everybody, oh, the Necrolord one's OP, right? And then they put a cap on how many times it can trigger. So it can only trigger once every second. And then I looked at the mana cost, and the mana cost is 5% per activation. I mean, after you factor in like the mana you have to use, it comes out to a 1% HPS increase. So yeah, so Necrolord Covenant ability is 1%. The Kyrian Covenant ability was about 4.5%. Also, Kyrian Covenant ability is good for moving because you can use it while on the move. It speeds you up, and it's all instant, and it's free. So the Kyrian one is just like the go-to, I would say, like stable one. It's pretty good. Never go Necrolord, never go Fae. Night Fae. Vindir is a completely viable option, actually. The mana you get back from Mind Games is actually kind of worth it compared to the other shitty choices. Even if it's not worth it, there's the Soulbinds are pretty good, and so I'll get to that in a little bit. But here's conduits. Yeah, none of the Covenant conduits for the throughputs are any good. They're all just terrible. So you'll just use Resonant Words and Holy Oration. The other ones suck. Holy Oration's kind of a weird one. I think, by my math, you basically need it in a 6-minute fight to get a second salve. But if it's not needed, then it's like worth a lot less. But in my opinion, more Holy Words is better, especially if you're just spamming like heals. With this build, every 7th heal, you get a Holy Word Serenity. So I feel like that's pretty decent. If you go Light of the Naru, I believe it's every 6th heal, because you'll have 9 seconds off of, or yeah, it'll take Maybe it's 3.5 actually. It's like 5.5. But every heal would take 9 seconds off of Holy Word Serenity. If you get Light of the Naru plus rank 7 Holy Oration. So, and of course this conduit's going to keep increasing, right? So yeah. Resonant words, obviously you're just constantly casting your holy words with this build, and they just buff heal, and you're already buffing heal with a bunch of things, so it's just you just stack bonuses on top of bonuses, and it just ends up doing a lot of extra HPS. Lasting Spirit, I didn't even feel like theory crafting. I was like, there might be a cheese. I was thinking about Lasting Spirit, maybe. I just randomly had this thought, like, I wonder if you can stack like multiple Guardian Angels on a target to get like multiplicative bonuses. Because isn't Kael'thas a healing boss? So I don't know. Lasting Spirit, that's the only way this conduit would see the light of day, is if you need to put like a super empowered Guardian Spirit onto Kael'thas and heal him up. Focus Mending is an actual joke. I factored that into the palm, and it didn't really do much for the results. Like, increasing an initial heal on something when it has 5 charges is just like the dumbest thing ever. Like, I don't know who came up with that idea, but it's just boring and stupid. Yeah, okay, the legendaries, the cape essentially just equals like some free healing and fuck up protection, I guess. I guess you could use it to like cheese certain mechanics. So maybe getting the cloak early-ish on, and I don't think it actually has to be a cloak. It could be a cloak or one other item. I forgot the other one. I just always refer to it as the legendary cloak because that's how I always remember it in Legion. But yeah, I think snagging this thing early on to cheese a mechanic might not be bad. I don't know how early on we're talking about though. Maybe like week 2, week 3. I'm not quite sure. You'd have to I have to look into the point system and see how it works. Harmonious Apparatus is basically a 0 HPS increase, because if you're putting everything in the heals, you don't really want to be trying to get your holy words off cooldown using other spells that are less efficient. And even when you factor in the 4 seconds that they would remove off the respective spells, it didn't do much. And of course I did the math, and they got closer, but it wasn't good enough. Flash concentration, decent, 5%. So Divine Image technically is a higher throughput legendary. But the problem is, with such slow heal times, you just simply won't have enough time to cast that many heals in a 6-minute fight. You still gotta do raid mechanics, there's still human error. That's why I feel like the faster cast time plus 15% healing just is so good for spot healing. Yeah. Oh, I should mention something. Well, let's see. Is it okay? So, believe it or not, so by the way, this is basically the build right here. This is like the default build, right? In my opinion. I tried to see if Renewed Faith would be good. 10% healing with targets on Renew. It did some good work when factoring in with Holy Word Salvation. And it had some decent synergy with Benediction, but it just wasn't enough to pass up 35% increased healing on your main heal. Yeah. Also, Cosmic Ripple further tilts like you wanting to spam more to get your holy words off cooldown. And then Surge of Light, same thing, right? Now, if you have Trail of Light, it makes Surge of Light better, and vice versa. And then because you're going this build, you don't really want to go Benediction because you don't really want to actually palm that much, because palm's pretty trash efficiency wise, especially since it doesn't affect any of your holy words. That's why it's bad. And people will just be like, but it does okay healing. It's not about that. Like, all of your healing is going to come from your holy words. And that's what really does the healing. So yeah, and Halo is a pretty dope spell. If your raid's fully stacked, Divine Star actually puts in a lot of work. Yeah, I'm assuming, it's like a good fight for it. We'll see. But what I was saying, okay, so for row 50, believe it or not, Light of the Naru and Holy Word Salvation are equal raw HPS throughput increases. So if the fight is slow and steady, you can go Light of the Naru. If there's a moment where your raid needs a big cooldown, you go Holy Word Salvation. Also, it's about time in the fight, right? So basically, if your fight's like 6 to 7 minutes, you want to use Holy Word Salvation because you'll be able to get 2 of them. But if it's like less or more than, you might want to really consider using Light of the Naru, because it's gonna be this really awkward moment where you're just sitting on potentially, like working your way towards a 3rd one, and then the fight just ends, right? So the plan is you want to just like barely use your 2nd Holy Word Salvation, and the fight goes on for like maybe 10 or 15, 20 seconds more. So then all your palms can bounce around, all your renews go, and then the fight's over. So you like use your Holy Word Salvation in that last moment during a super important like moment where everybody's health's like almost dying, and you come in clutch with a 2nd Holy Word Salvation because you spammed so many goddamn heals that you got Serenity's cooldown off a bunch, and then it synergizes really well with the. Oh, by the way, the Holy Word reduction I'm pretty sure affects Holy Word Salvation, right? So every time you cast the Serenity with Oration, it's going to reduce the time on Holy Word Salvation by like 33 or 34 seconds instead of 30. So yeah, I think I could see a world like in the future, depending on if we can get like more mana, or like like later ranks with that conduit, where you can start to get like, I don't know, like 4-minute cooldown salvations. It would be pretty nuts. We'll see. Oh yeah, I was hoping that Binding Heal was going to be good because I'm always a fan of Binding Heal, but it just has like no synergy, and it only has a 3-second cooldown off for both Serenity and Holy Word Sanctify. So it's not enough. It used to be like 4 seconds, so at least it was like a combined 8. But it's not, and it's 3.4% of your mana, and it's always healing you 1 time. So it's trash. Binding Heal's trash. Like, that's all there is to it. And I'm not a fan of Prayer Circle, right? Prayer Circle, by like definition, is like, in my opinion, the only use of Prayer Circle is if you have a bunch of innervates. If you can get a bunch of innervates, then you can constantly circle of healing, then spam out a bunch of prayer of healings while innervated. But short of you just like having a cabal of druids ready to go, like, I'm never gonna theory craft like that either. So I'm gonna theory craft like you have no external help whatsoever, because that's how I'm going to play. So if you know for a fact you can get like 4 innervates to fight, maybe there's some hope for like prayer of healing and prayer circle. I mean, yeah, I don't know. It's almost not worth talking about. Prayer Circle is just an HPS increase, definitely not a throughput increase. It's equivalent to getting haste, and haste is terrible on Holy Priest. So, yeah. I mean, if you don't get any external help outside of your character, it will not give you more cast in a fight. It'll just allow you to do your cast in a fight faster during certain moments to really peak HPS. So, okay, yeah, that's talents. Let's see, go back to my list. Soulbinds. Okay, yeah. Back to these. So yeah, I wrote down all the Covenant bonuses, and there's some interesting results. I mean, a lot of this data was basically the same as like Resto Shamans, so that was easy for me. Small differences though, like Holy Priest doesn't scale as hard with Mastery as Resto Shaman does, but it's pretty close. Like, Holy Priest Mastery is pretty solid. So a lot of this stuff was still the same. Surprisingly, the combination of the Vinthier Soulbinds actually looks to be taking the lead. So I actually think I would want to go Draven, because he gets so many movement speed increases passively. Or just like, it's just a huge movement. Like, I give it 2%. That's how much I value it. It's like basically a free plus 30% movement speed all time. It's just a passive. And then this one's would work really well with it, because you want to be like, you don't want to have to move, but when you do, you want to move and then be done really fast, right? And that's what these two would be really good at synergizing together. This is just like DR. So yeah, also I have no clue how good Token of Appreciation is. The data seems to be all over the place on like the websites, and I haven't had a chance to test it. So if anybody knows, let me know. But that's why I put 1.25 to 4.5%, because it looks like it could be insane. But yeah, so I'm kind of torn between Pelagos, Kyrian, with like the ascended sort of covenant thing. The numbers are looking pretty good. So it's either Pelagos, guys, or in my opinion, it's Theotar or Draven. So you actually have 3 options, and you can choose between 2 covenants. That's how close the math is, in my opinion. So that's pretty cool. You don't usually get to find the math is that close to where you can just kind of choose. Same with like the talents at the end of the row, right? That's cool. Okay, moving on. Yeah, so this is basically what I was kind of explaining. The Soulbinds, the Covenants, the Conduits that I would pick, the Legendary I would go with, the talents. Basically, as far as rotation guys go, this is... Okay, so number-wise, you're going to do it pretty much the exact same as the rest of Shaman. But I feel like you're going to scale harder. But yeah, that's just my gut feeling. But the rotation is so much easier. I mean, Resto Shaman is having to use so many spells, and they have to time things. They gotta like use Unleash Life properly with like high tides, and they gotta maybe use it with like a Primordial Wave Cleave and do like an Omega combo. You know what you do as a Holy Priest, guys? You just spam heal. I love it. I'm down. Why would I want to try harder to put out the exact same numbers? No, God, no. I find raiding plenty difficult. I do not claim to be that great of a player. I mean, I've played ridiculously hard builds before, like the Haste Weaver one. And sure, it's Bottle and Lightning. It's fun, but I'm down. I'm down just to sit in the back and cast heal. Drink my Mountain Dew. Just be a boomer, dude. But anyways, basically, you just use all of your little, like, you use like your Halo or your Divine Star appropriately, and it's much off cooldown. Use your CDs, obviously. The whole point of taking Holy Word Salvation is that you're supposed to use it twice in a 6-minute fight. If you can't get it off twice, then you should have gone Light of the Naru. Oh yeah, the only minigame you have to play. This is it, guys. This is the only thing you have to actually do. Just don't let your 5 stacks of flash concentration fall off. Make a weak aura. That's it. Just make a weak aura. And it yells at you when it's like running out. And the trick is, if you get a Surge of Light proc, don't use it instantly. Wait until you need to refresh your flash concentration at the last possible second. Then do an instant flash heal. Unless your Surge of Light charges are 2 out of 2, you know, they just sit on 1. Like, there's no, there's no hurry. Flash heal doesn't do nearly as much as a heal. So it's like an HPS loss. You're just simply using the Surge of Light procs to keep up your flash concentration. With average luck, guys, you shouldn't have to ever really pay for your flash heals. You should be able to get plenty of Surge of Light procs. I think like 70 or 80% of your flashlights should be like free. So yeah. Oh yeah, use your Holy Words off cooldown as much as possible. Every time you use it, it buffs your heal, and then every time it comes off cooldown, it releases a heal. Also, every single time you use them, it reduces your Holy Word Salvation's cooldown. So it's like this, it's like kind of like this engine. You just want to keep feeding it fuel, keep going. The more you like reduce your cooldowns, the more the cooldowns reduced, and yeah. If you're not spamming, Holy Word Salvation will not come off cooldown. So which is kind of an awkward moment, right? Because if your raid leader wrote you down for a cooldown and it's Holy Word Salve, and your second salve isn't up when it's supposed to be, it's gonna be really awkward. Yeah. Let's see. You're actually a really good tank healer with okay, I just spilled some shit. You're a really good tank healer with Trail of Light. And just heal spamming. Heal does a lot of work. It heals for a lot. Go figure. It's really efficient. And there's Trail of Light, so the 35% kind of like beacon you leave behind temporarily, means you can watch both the tanks really easily. So if you guys need if your raid is in need of a spot healer or a tank healer, Holy Priest is looking pretty good for that. I mean, I feel like I'm saying that about a lot of the healers, but so far Shaman and Holy Priest really stepped it up in the single healing department. Shaman with Earth Shield, and all the bonuses they get, but they can only really watch one tank, whereas Holy Priest excels, I would say, at healing 2 tanks, but not really necessarily at the melee. Holy Priest is going to do a lot of single target healing with this build, which means you're going to want one of the more AoE healers to be paired with, right? You don't want to have too many single target healers. You don't have too many AoE healers. Yeah, also, randomly, if your raid is stacked, you can use Holy Nova. It's actually pretty efficient, so that's like the only heads up play you make. I might make a weak aura just because I'm that much of a degenerate, where if I'm next to 20 people, a picture of Holy Nova will pop up or something, just so I don't even have to use my brain. Oh yeah, I kind of did like a 6-minute fight, and like legit, this is actually what a 6-minute fight would look like if you play it properly, or assuming you're allowed to play it properly. 2 Divine Hymns, 9 Halos, 125 heal cast, 6 Holy Word Sanctifies, 2 Holy Word Salvations, 18 Holy Word Serenities. It's basically just heals. Like, that's it. You literally won't be using half your spellbook, like 2/3 of your spellbook. I love it, if you can help it. Obviously, you might be forced to, cast some spells on the move. I feel like the Kyrian, Soulbind, the Covenant ability, your Surge of Light procs, can kind of, and like your instant Holy Words can kind of fill that gap a little bit. But yeah, you might be forced to cast some Circle of Healing, maybe some Palms. Definitely don't unbind those keys, but if it's just a standstill and like blast heals, this is how you want to do it. This is how you're going to do the most healing in a 6-minute fight. So we'll see. I'm sure I'm going to get flamed for this. It's going to be like, what? You told people not to use Prayer of Healing, Palm, Circle of Healing, or Renew. Like, yeah. Let's see. Oh yeah, so the raw HPS of the potential of the Holy Priest is about the same as the Resto Shaman. So whether or not Blizzard accidentally or properly tuned it remains to be seen, but both of them seem pretty decent at about 16k raw HPS when we're going to get to raid, and they're going to have all their legendary buffs and whatnot. So I think 16k is pretty decent. When I was on the beta, I was doing like 7k, and I was destroying all the other healers, and my raw was like 8 or 9, and I had no clue what I was doing. So once I get like once we get in there and I get the proper gear and we get all the things set up, I won't be surprised if I start doing close to like 18, 19 raw, which I hope is good. It seems like that's a lot of healing. That feels like a lot of healing. I made the conversion, so unfortunately excess mana is not necessarily too good for this build, mostly because you do a lot of your healing with the cooldowns, and then you're just kind of like excess healing helps you get your Holy Words off cooldown faster, which is nice, but it's just not that great in general. But yeah, if you go Lot of the Naru, excess mana is pretty good, but if you're not Lot of the Naru and you're just Holy Words Sanctify, God, my brain. You know what I'm saying. The Omega Holy Word, Salvation. Then excess mana is not really that good. Because no matter what happens, you're probably just going to get the uses off regardless of like your mana situation. So, okay. Final thoughts into the video. I'm looking forward to playing Holy Priest. I hope that the other specs aren't as good, so then I can be like, I knew Holy Priest was going to be good. I'm like a Holy Priest main at heart, I think. It just seems like the most healerist healer that makes any sense. And I like the style that seems to be the best. It's just spam heal. I mean, you don't get any more vanilla than this, basically. It's just like Holy Priest, a spam heal. Like, I don't know. It just seems fun to me. Like, maybe I'm fucking weird. It's like, I mean, I'll play anything, right? Like, I'll play some cracked out Mistweaver build that's using 15 spells a second to maintain infinite haunts, right? Or I'll play a heal bot that just literally spams the same spell the entire combat. Like, I'm down to do whatever. Yeah. I don't know. I think the strengths are going to be incredibly good spot healing, like consistently good spot healing. Every like, I don't know, 10 seconds, you're going to be able to just lift someone's HP in the entire raid from like almost dead to instantly full with Holy Word's Serenity. You don't get too many Sanctifies with this build. So definitely the weakness with this build is almost zero AoE healing. Which I don't feel like is going to be an issue because I feel like a lot of the classes are going to be really good at AoE healing. So I would slide into a raid as a Holy Priest with this build. If they already have AoE healing covered, which is most of the other classes. Disc Priest is like all AoE healing. Probably most Holy Priests will be playing AoE healing style, but I think it's going to be dog shit. Resto Shaman's going to do a decent AoE healing. I think Monks probably will have a lot like decent coverage. Paladins with Light of Dawn, with the buff they just got, will do okay amounts. You know, they also have the Holy Shocks and Glimmer still a little bit, but it's not nearly as good. I don't know. AoE healing might be a little bit lacking this time around, actually. I mean, off the Theorcraft, we'll see. We'll see what's going on with the other classes, with the exception of Disc Priest. Fuck that spec. Okay, I'm basically just hanging out at this point. I should probably stop the video and go to sleep. Get a life. Yeah. I don't know. Okay. Well, hey, thanks for watching. If you have any questions, hit me up. I'll put a link in the description for my my Discord, my Twitch. Maybe I'll stream eventually. Who knows? Okay. Yeah. Bye.